I go into different restaurants and stuff, and like the people that know me, this is what they ask me about, which is both very flattering and also, I kind of chuckle.
It's the same with me. Come compliment us on the production of the game, or the great features that we've done, or our efforts to highlight other athletes in other sports with the grade 8. No, that's
right.
So related to that, I have a new feature for you this week. We are going to open up the viewer mailbag.
Ooh, all right. I love this.
So, some comments and messages we've received.
Okay.
So from a fan of a team who feels like their team has been disrespected.
Okay.
These rankings make no sense. I can tell you guys don't watch the games. Casey, ask me what I did on Saturday.
Peter, what did you do on Saturday?
I went to a high school basketball game. Ask me what I did on Friday.
What'd you do on Friday, Peter?
I went to a high school basketball game.
What'd you do on Wednesday or Thursday of last week?
Well, on Thursday, I was at a high school basketball game. On Wednesday, I was not at a game. I was at a high school basketball practice.
So,
guess what I did on Sunday?
What did you do on Sunday?
I stayed home because it was snowing, and the 8th grade travel basketball game that I was planning to go watch got canceled.
And you were happy.
No, I was actually looking forward to that.
Oh, okay.
So yes, no, I don't watch games.
Well, you said you were there. Did you watch them while you were there?
No, I was chatting in the stands. I did see something. I saw 2 things that I don't think I have ever seen before at a high school game. I saw a JV game in overtime just get called with 30 seconds left, which bravo. Let's just get to the varsity game.
All right, I'm gonna take umbrage with this. I heard the suggestion on Friday. So Friday I went to the shot clock, game clock, and announcer and said, listen, we have one rule. JV games must end in regulation. There can be no JV overtime because we don't want to start the broadcast 45 minutes late. But at the same time, I realized that for the JV kids, they're trying to practice real-time situations as well. So maybe we could start the JV game a half an hour earlier to allow for the possibility of overtime, because I would love to see those kids be able to play that overtime game out. But if I had been there waiting to broadcast, I would have been like, turn the clock off, let's go.
Now, there were some other factors. That there were some hard fouls, and I think this was let's head this off before it gets a little too chippy. Okay. Now, my modest proposal along the lines of adding the shot clock would be no timeouts in freshman and JV games.
So the reverse of that is that there is no more – that freshman and JV is about development and teaching, and you have to allow for the coaches –
teach them in practice.
To do that.
So, and this is my bias being a soccer coach. Mm-hmm. I get no timeouts. I put the kids on the field, and they got to figure it out. And if they make a mistake, we have all week in practice to work it out. Now, people don't have to agree with me, and it's kind of a hot take.
I think that my inclination to make fun of soccer in that moment was very strong. But I was going to say, listen, a timeout is important because you could be down 15 to 20 points. And in soccer, a timeout is not important because you could be down a goal. Or still no one would notice. But I think soccer, to your point, the flow of soccer and the flow of basketball are very different. So I get that. I don't think no timeouts because I think we should be replicating game situations and these kids should be learning in them. Maybe not 8 timeouts. Because I will say that when I see a coach call a timeout with 35 seconds left in the JV game and a 12-point lead, I want to curl up and rock myself to sleep.
The other thing that I saw that I don't think I've ever seen was the varsity game start with a free throw.
Team late to the
I was told dunking in the warm-up lines.
Got him a technical.
Resulted in a technical.
All right. Huh.
So I guess a rule that I knew existed, and I don't think I have ever seen it enforced.
No. All right. Okay.
So an interesting weekend, but no, I don't watch games.
So
on the other side of things,
what do we got else? What else for the mailbag?
So from a player on a team that some people have remarked that maybe we are not giving enough respect to. I appreciate both of your inputs. We need to do better.
Wow.
I have just left Casey O'Neill speechless. Congratulations to this player.
There is still hope. There is goodness in the world. Thank you. Thank you, young man or woman. Thank you. Wow. All right. So I think I think it's very important for me to say live from the Days Studios, 200 State Street in New London, Connecticut. It is time for the Eastern Connecticut Boys Power Rankings. And this week we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, Peter, I want you to know that Peter just explained to me what he does to develop these power rankings. Peter, do you look at the records of the teams?
Yes.
Do you look at the records of their opponents?
Yes.
Do you look at the division that the team is in versus the division of the team that they played?
In the conference level and the state level.
Do you then look at their performance against other teams within the top 10 of our power rankings?
As well as the top 10 in the Game Time CT state poll.
And do you look at the games that you have both done for highlights as well as in person and your own take?
Yes.
Okay. That's what Peter does. I flip a coin and I rub the magic ball. That's it. That's all I do. So this week, in honor of Peter's diligence, this top 10 is Peter's top 10, not my top 10. This is Peter's top 10. I can't be more clear. This is Peter's top 10. I'm going to weigh in on his top 10. Now, I want to say I have my top 10. The bottom and the top are impossible. I feel like the middle is very easy. The top two and the bottom two are very, very difficult. So we're going to flip it this week because I know you all. I know you all want to know who we're putting at 1 and 2 this week. So we're going to reverse. We're going to start at number 10. Peter, who do you have at number 10 this week?
We have at number 10 the St. Bernard Saints.
All right. So the Saints are 2-5. But their 5 losses have all come to what I consider to be the uber elite. Not even just the elite, the uber elite. We're talking about undefeated, one-loss, top 10 type teams. The 2 cracks they've had at teams that weren't that, and they won the game. The problem is that St. Bernard's record is going to be very difficult for them to improve on because even this week, they've got NFA. That's their biggest opportunity, I think, to kind of announce to the rest of the league that they are what they want to be.
So there's a bunch of bubble teams that I think we could consider for one of these spots at 9 and 8.
But 2 of them, Woodstock and Montville, are the 2 teams that St. Bernard has beaten. So that makes them...
that's exactly so. Looking at Parish Hill, 5-3 start to the season, just lost to Putnam.
Putnam. 5-5.
But Parish Hill, looking at their opponents, all winless.
Correct.
Putnam 5-5, Plainfield 4-5, Montville 5-4,
Ellis Tech,
Woodstock 4-4, Ellis I'm forgetting, but
all right around the 500,
all
one game over.
Around 500. And at this point in the season, looking at head-to-heads, I can't bump St. Bernard off for a team that they beat head-to-head and does not have – like, if there was a team that St. Bernard had beat but was 7-2.
Correct.
I'm keeping that 7-2 team.
I agree, but I happen to agree with this one. I think the Saints, and you know what? If nothing else, from my perspective, Mark Jones and the Saints deserve to be here because of what this is. If you want to call it a lifetime achievement award or a past 6-year achievement award, they're playing in Division I. They had every right to slide back this year, having graduated everybody, but they didn't. So you know what? This is also a little nod to the fact that their schedule. They could easily be 5-2 instead of 2-5 if they didn't want to play the best schedule in the conference. So who do we have at number 9 then, Peter?
Okay, so a controversial pick here maybe, but I am dropping Killingly down to number 9.
So I think that this is accurate because the only two teams that you can argue they should be out in front of are the two Tech teams, and you can make that argument. But I think for our purposes, we're keeping the Tech schools linked to each other. But Killingly at 6-3 has lost to 3 Division I schools, New London, NFA, and Fitch. And I saw enough of them Friday against Fitch to think that they can beat anybody else. But they've got a huge week this week, starting with their very next game tomorrow, Griswold, at Griswold, and then Montville. If they come out of this week 2-0, then we have them too low on the list.
Agreed.
But they have to beat Griswold.
Agreed. So I think the win over Colby is a good win. The rest of their wins in the conference are to be expected. They've beaten teams in divisions lower than them or teams with worse records, and their losses are to teams in our top 10.
Now,
and so that to me was the determining factor
yes,
between Killingly and the teams above them.
Their loss to New London was competitive into the fourth quarter, deep into the fourth quarter. Their loss to NFA probably was a game they could have won. Their loss to Fitch handled them well. But I saw enough with my eyes to know that Killingly belongs in that second tier of teams. The only reason this team that comes in at 8, and I know who this team is because they beat Killingly. And that's part of what separates them, even though their record probably isn't the same. But they have, NFA, won 3 straight games.
Yeah, and so I think that there is... So we've talked about this before. There's a little bit of incumbency bias in this, and there's also recency bias. Like, the further we get into the season, the more we discount those early games. And, I mean, so looking at their head-to-heads with teams in this countdown, a win over Killingly, an overtime loss to New London. I got to check my notes so I'm not getting these wrong. Losses to Newtown, East Catholic, Northwest Catholic, Ellington. I mean that is a murderer's row. Maybe not Newtown. I'm not sure.
But Ellington, by the way, which was a very tough loss, where they, by all accounts, had that game won. If you flip that and make them 5-4. And then they're winners of 4 straight. Then all of a sudden, actually winners of 5 straight. If you flip that, and then you're like, I mean, then you're really high on this team. So,
and they've got a win over Stonington, which I think, taken with the rest of their resume as the season goes along, might become a factor. But right now, records-wise, I'm keeping Stonington ahead of them despite the loss, because it's Stonington with an 8-2 record at this point.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. We have said all along that NFA is on the rise and will continue to be so. I fully expect them to be in the semifinals of the ECC tournament. Where they're seated would be fascinating, because I think if you're in a semifinal and you're looking to play, you don't want the NFA semifinal. You want to be on the other side of the bracket. That's a very good team to have to play. So who do we have at number 7?
We've got Wyndham Tech coming in at number 7.
I would be happier about this pick if they didn't just get smacked by Cheney Tech in their last game.
Yeah, that's That is definitely a factor. My deciding factor, Wyndham Tech, still a lower division, and a win over a team in our top 10.
Grasso Tech, and they have split. Their other loss to E.O. Smith, Cam Mazerel, over at E.O. Smith, great high jumper that we've seen in the grade 8. I think if you had flipped them in Killingly and put NFA 7, Killingly 8, and Wyndham Tech 9, I would have been in just as much agreement. But the problem becomes who's at 6, and this is why these two teams are kind of linked to each other, and it's very challenging. But we're going to have a lot settled. So at number 6, linked with Wyndham Tech, is Grasso Tech.
I mean, this is almost a tie, but I refuse to say those two numbers at the same time.
Well, you're 7 and 6.
Correct.
Well, your out here is that Grasso Tech is 8 and 2, so they do have the better record. They have lost to Wyndham Tech and to Weaver, but they've won 3 in a row. And with Norwich Tech and Prince Tech this week, Grasso should continue to roll. Wyndham Tech has Ellis Tech and Bristol Eastern, so these two are both linked. And I feel like if you dropped them down to the 8-9 spots, it feels too low. But I don't know that there's a difference between 6 and 9.
I mean, I think the difference is a 7-3 record and 8-2 record.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, before you announce who the 5th team is, that this team coming in at 5 is in many ways my favorite team that is banging on the ceiling above them at 5. They are at 5. But they are pounding a hole in the ceiling to try to get higher, and that's the Bears.
I mean, going out of state to that Huoppi tournament and winning one and making a final against a Staten Island team.
Yeah, they're 8 and 2, and their losses, by the way, Griswold in overtime, and NFA, both of which were. They could very easily be 10 and 0 instead of 8 and 2. Now they've got Waterford and East Lyme this week. A couple games on the other side. I believe they will be 12 and 2, rolling into their rematch with Griswold, and that's how you shatter the ceiling. You can bang on the ceiling all you want, but you shatter it when you go and you win a game like that.
Yeah, 100%, and it's. I mean, that the difference between them being 5 or 4 in these power rankings is, I mean, one layup conceded against the team above them.
That is correct.
Basically, right?
And the team above them is the one feeling the pounding on their floor. They feel the vibrations on the floor, and that is the Griswold Wolverines, because they know Stonington is pounding on the ceiling. Now, Griswold could say, hey, listen, we're 7 and 2, and our losses are to powerhouse Old Lyme, powerhouse New London. Like, we could be, higher in the rankings, right? And now this is a big week for them, Killingly and Wyndham. I would suggest that Griswold is the favorite over both Killingly and Wyndham, and could lose to either team. These are not foregone conclusions that they win either of these two games.
No, and I was honestly very impressed with Wyndham. So Wyndham, not a great record, but was in it against New London for a lot of the game, and I don't think that was a knock on how New London played. I just think that Wyndham is good. Coach Martineau is going to make something out of his team no matter who he's got. Andon Gonzalez, a talented player, and some other good players around him. So Wyndham is one of those teams that I think is going to win some games we don't expect them to win.
I would agree.
And we probably should have their record is what's keeping them out of the conversation as one of those bubble teams.
But if they were to, for example, knock off Griswold, then they make their case.
Oh, absolutely.
Number 3 is, in many ways, my favorite storyline moving forward, and that is Old Lyme. They are 8-1, and their only loss is to Fitch, and it was a bad loss. I can say that because Coach Brady Sheffield told me it was a bad loss. Everyone else wants to give them kudos, credit, platitudes, and joy for that loss, and he is not having any of it. They should be undefeated, and it's a bad loss. The reason why they're fascinating to me is they play the rest of the way all teams that are either 500 or below that they should beat, and 2 undefeated teams.
Yeah, two major exceptions.
Circle your calendar because you may have to buy a ticket a week in advance. But January 30th, Friday night, at Old Lyme, who should roll in there 11-1, something like that, against currently undefeated Cromwell. That's the game of the week and of the year in the Shoreline area, but certainly game of the week that week. And then if they do defeat Cromwell, which is a big if, but if they did, then they play undefeated Ellington the last game of the year. So Old Lyme should win all their games. They have 2 undefeated teams, and those should be fabulous games.
And so if this is hard to project out hypotheticals that far, but if Old Lyme runs the table the rest of the way, do they have an argument to be in one of the top 2 spots?
They do, based on what happens with those 2 teams. But yes, they absolutely do. I would go so far as to say that I would have no problem putting them ahead of the current 2 top teams. If they beat Cromwell, it'll be hard to keep them off of there. If they beat Cromwell and Ellington, they finish 19-1 with those wins. I don't see a way of keeping them out of the top 2. By the way, I was just reading Eddie Fisk, another career milestone for points, and he said junior Eddie Fisk, and I'm like, junior? He's only a junior? I feel like I've been saying he's only he's only a freshman, he's only a junior. So let's not forget that we are in the midst of a iconic career at all.
Oh yeah, and if we can take a quick timeout from Eastern Connecticut basketball to acknowledge one other career milestone. Devin Williams.
Yes.
2,000 points.
Yes.
On the floor at TD Garden.
Milton Academy's game. Yeah, that was
got a very, very cool moment.
Yeah, and there's a segment that I'd like to do, a podcast segment at some point here, if you will, just looking at how much talent we've had in the last 5 years that's spread out. It is not going to be about whether kids should go to prep. It's not about whether kids should transfer. It's not about that. It's just about what might go down as one of the great middle school classes of all time in New London, where multiple state championships and state finalists came out of, multiple 1,000-point and 2,000-point scorers came out of this group that went through the New London middle schools in about 5 years ago.
Yeah, and as a fan, it's a little bit of a bummer to not have seen every one of those kids for 4 years.
Yes, and the reality is, by the way, if I were to when I name them all, you're going to say, "Oh, they all couldn't have. They could not have formed a team. There was too many guys for a team. There's probably 13 names, and 13 kids can't play on a team. So you're going to say, and I don't want to name names now, but maybe 2 of the kids that are big-time important players for New London, St. Bernard's, Fitch, don't play because of how. So it's just more about wow, what a cycle of talent came through all at one time.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to these top 2 and arguing with you.
Well, you already did your research. All right. I am going to do as I promised. I am going to reach into my crystal ball, and I'm going to ask it. I'm going to ask it right now. Should Fitch be the number 1 team? And its response, looking at it now, it says the futures. I'll have to let me try this again. Is New London the number 1 team? Let's see what it says. It says. Ask me again on Wednesday. No, crystal ball. I need to know. Is New London or Fitch the number 1 team in the power rankings? This is very, very important to me. And I'm just noticing that's green and gold and black and red. It doesn't even want to distinguish its font. Its color types. There is no point in putting a number 1 and a number 2 team right now because Tuesday is going to determine number 1 and number 2.
All right, well, but today's Monday, and someone here needs to be decisive.
If you're from New London, I want to be clear. I agree with these rankings. If you're from Fitch, I want to be clear. These are Peter's rankings. I'm going to agree with you, Peter. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say that, boy, that's tough. Fitch was number 1 last week. All they did is go out and throttle Killingly, as well as win their other games, and they've only lost to Northwest Catholic, and they get bumped from the 1 spot. If I am Fitch, I am not happy with this at all.
So this is a tough decision, and to me, the difference is games against top 10 teams in the state. New London won theirs. Fitch didn't win theirs. Now, on the road versus at home, early in the season versus later in the season. I mean, we were not going to do a tie. I think the margin here is smaller than the space between my fingers. We'll get this decided on Tuesday night. But for now, New London has earned the top spot. This is not a shot against Fitch. Fitch, I thought I had a good handle on who was the favorite going into Tuesday. I have no idea.
So Fitch is 10-1. Their 1 loss on the road, Northwest Catholic, was supposed to be in the Doc Hurley. Ended up having to be at Northwest Catholic in the morning. Coach Kareem Brown said they were flat as a pancake. It was a road game. It just the whole feel of it being postponed from Trinity and moved over last minute. The whole thing was bad. He said, they're going to throw that one away. New London lost to Hendricken and to Classical, the Rhode Island Nightmares. But their wins over NFA, Hillhouse, LaSalle, and Central, including Hillhouse, who was undefeated at the time and whose only other loss is to Notre Dame of West Haven. Whereas Fitch is going to hang their hat on what win. Old Lyme is probably their best win, but that's a Division 4, should be in Division 5, school. And I will say, that being said, I thought off the Hillhouse game that New London might have been a favorite, but I watched no one has beaten Killingly the way Fitch beat Killingly on Friday. And I don't have any idea what's going to happen Tuesday night. There is no result Tuesday that is going to surprise me. I think New London has the best starting 5 in the league. I think Fitch's starting 5 is better than I thought. They're deeper than I thought. You'd have a tough time arguing that there's a better player than Xavier Good. J.J. Robinson is probably the most veteran and winningest floor general in the league. The Halls are fabulous. Kyer Young has brought an entire new dynamic to New London. Soria is the perfect role guy. Caden Simons-Gaskins brought a different dynamic to Fitch. Sakis Reels, Kareem Brown says he's the best shooter in the state. We saw Giancopoulos and Sebastian Smalls, guys that they're better than role players. They're just happen to be the 4 and 5 pieces on that team. I am so excited for Tuesday night. Live on game day from the Madison Square Garden of the ECC, the Mecca, the John T. Conway Gymnasium.
And so, to repeat my offer from last week, if you disagree with this, send us your top 10. Don't just say, oh, Fitch should be number 1. Oh, NFA should be higher. Give me your 1 through 10, and we'll consider that.
I think that's fair. And when someone responds, you must not watch the games, I would prefer you send that in with your top 10 attached so that we can see that, for someone who has clearly watched all of the games, what they would be interested in as well. Tuesday night. I mean, this is why they play them. And this is just going to be the first of a handful of the game, right? There's going to be another one when NFA and Fitch play, when NFA and New London play again, when Fitch and New London play again. We'll keep hyping these things up. But for Tuesday night, I don't know that there's anything more exciting. It'll be a game that the state is looking at as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Game Time CT top 10 is coming out shortly. Very good chance both of those teams are in it. New London has been in it. Fitch hasn't. People have liked to point that out, that somehow the state voters know more about the local teams than we do. But
so tomorrow, girls' power rankings. Holly McCalla will be submitting and or hopefully with us to do that. Mike DeMoro and I have lots of things to talk about. But before we go, just 3 quick bullet points. If you didn't watch SportsCenter this week and you didn't see the top play in the country from SportsCenter, it was our own Notre Dame of West Haven's Abdou Toure against Inglewood. Duncan, Showtime style, hardcore baseline thunder dunk. Notre Dame lost by a point to California's Inglewood. They are so good. I mean, they beat Hill House by 40. They are light years ahead, and it was a privilege to have seen them. And again, when we go back and talk about this is a team that we will talk about for years and years to come, they showed it again.
So if you had a vote in the state poll, where would you vote Notre Dame's 5 top players off the bench?
Probably 2.
Might they be number 2?
They might be. I mean, you don't. If you told me you could take away players 2 to 4, I could have Toure and the next 4, they're number 1. If you told me I could have Krieger and the next 3, I think they'd be number 1. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could take away all their guys. As long as I had Krieger or Toure, they're still number 1. Without Krieger and Toure, yes, they're 100% still a top 10 team. I mean, they are.
And that to me is just what's so impressive. I mean, you can say like, oh, they're a Catholic school, they can recruit, it's a school of choice. I think it's less about attracting talent and more about what Coach Shea has done there, because it is a huge challenge to develop players on a team that deep.
Yes.
He has said, like, I've got guys at 10, 11, 12 on my bench that deserve to be getting playing time, and it's hard to find spots for them and tell them you got to wait till next year. That he and that program have created a culture that attracts top players, and he is able to retain them and develop them. Like, it is a deep, deep team.
It is, and I love that we have a standard bearer in the state. It's going to be tough next year. We're going to find out next year because he'll have a chance to reboot without the guy. But there is no hotter player in the country than Abdou Toure. We've been fortunate enough to have him on game day. All right, tomorrow, girls' power rankings and New London and Fitch. You'll have it all. We'll be back next week and see where everything shakes out. Live from the Day Studios, 200.